Welcome everyone for the third day of our symposium, Identifying and Countering Holocaust Distortion, Lessons for and from Southeast Asia. I would like also to remind that the symposium was supported by the Balac Program at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, Thailand, and also by the American University in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And it is part of a project supported by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance with the same title, Identifying and Countering Holocaust Distortions, Lessons for and from Southeast Asia. You can find more information on our website about the project and about our future activities and also about the symposium. And you can also find there all our recordings for all our previous sessions. And also it's also recommended to watch previous sessions. So you will be more involved also in the next days of the symposium. And I'd like also to mention that the project, first of all, it's very important aspect of our project is collaboration, cooperation between Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia, and sharing best practices and experiences. So, and we are learning from each other and sharing our knowledge. So mutually, so it's a mutual transfer of knowledge and cooperation. And it's also very important that in our project, we also focus and we involve to work with minorities in all different contexts. And before I will present our program for today, I'd like to ask my colleague from Cambodia, from Peace Institute of Cambodia, who's also represented the Muslim minority in Cambodia, to tell us about yesterday, about our program yesterday, just remind a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. And good afternoon, everyone. Also, good morning in the Central Europe. Yes, from here in Cambodia is 4 p.m. And so good afternoon and everyone who joined here in Southeast Asia and in Central Europe. Yes, so thank you again, Natalie, and also thank you everyone who participating today. And before we start the day, I would like to give the highlight review from yesterday's very interesting and special, a very fruitful symposium we have yesterday. We have many keynote speakers, honorable joining, and also very good discussion, very fruitful. We have at first, like from the start, we have Professor Dr. Robert William from the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. He was giving an overview of the problem of the Holocaust distortion, and also how the Holocaust distortion related to the anti-Semitism. And then we have a lot of question and discussion how it's dealing with also how the Cambodian dealing with the past, and how is genocide, distortion, and denial in Cambodian took place. We have several other very interesting, very special speaker. We have from our keynote talk from Professor Jueda Bauer. Yes, he's the honorary chair from the IHRA. Also, he's from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and also academic advisor of Yad Vashem in Israel. Yesterday was very good, very fruitful. And today I also see a very special speaker joining from Thailand as well. So to continue about yesterday, we also have this very interesting from Professor Ben Cannon from Yale University. He's giving about the globalization of genocide denial and also the case of genocide multi-denier. And we have the question and group discussion. Question and also comment from Dr. Helen Jarvis, who was with the ECC, the tribunal in Cambodia. And also we have three speakers from Cambodia joining from Bupana, from Peace Institute of Cambodia, me, myself, And also we get the reflection, we get another keynote talk and the insightful view from Professor Rafał Penkowski. Yes, he's also very like an expert on Cambodia. He studied a lot about the Asian and Cambodia and Thailand as well as Myanmar. And so that was today about dealing with the past in Cambodia and genocide denial in terms of in globalization and also in global and also in multi-denial in South Asia. And I hope today we have a very fruitful discussion, and I'm looking forward to the this next discussion, also next presentation from the very honorable from Thailand, from our speaker from Chulalongkorn as well. I'm very looking forward to it, and so I would like to give the floor back to Natalie. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sayana, for this nice introduction. And I would just like to add before we start the session, but there is interpretation into Khmer language available. Just look at the bottom of your screen. And if it's easier for you to listen to Khmer language, so we have this option available. And as Sayana also mentioned today, we have very also interesting and diverse program. We will start with a discussion with Chief Rabbi of Poland, Michael Schudrich. We are all very honored to have him, and also our colleague and friend, Venerable Lablu Barua from Bangkok, Thailand. We will have a discussion about how we can counter Holocaust distortion in the context of framework of the interfaith dialogue. And then we also have a presentation by our colleague from Thailand, Dr. Virita Sriratana, The Land of Smiles, Nozyk and Communist Coup, Personality Cult and Genocide and Holocaust Indifference in Thailand. And then we will have presentation by also another our colleague from Dr. Ronan Lee, how techniques of denial and distortion were weaponized to enable of a genocide of Myanmar's Rohingya, and why education about the Holocaust and its denial must be a part of democratic Myanmar's future. And also we have a very, I would say, unique session with the leader of a Jewish community of Myanmar, Sammy Samuels, because there is very small Jewish community in Myanmar. There is a synagogue, and we invited him today, and he will have a presentation about the smallest religious minority in Myanmar, Jewish community. And then we also have a very interesting discussion with Konstanty Geber, who is a very famous Polish Jewish intellectual writer who wrote books also about comparative genocides and known also all over the world. And we also have Mafidul Haq, founder of Bangladesh Liberation War Museum, and Nikki Diamond, our colleague from Myanmar and Burmese activist and PhD candidate who is studying hate speech against Muslim minority in Myanmar. And also we have our colleague Barbara Tim, who is an advisor at the Tuol Sleng Genocide Museum in Cambodia. So as you see, the program is very intense, but very interesting, and we very much hope we can also have an interesting discussion. And all what we are discussing today, we are also going to include in our post-symposium publication. So all your words, all your ideas, comments are important for us, so we care about this. So thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to our colleague and friend from Bangkok, Venerable Lablu Barua, who is a PhD candidate in peace studies, and also he is peace ambassador at the Institute of Economics in Peace and Peace, and religious leader, faith leader, who is interested in developing dialogue such as Buddhist, Muslim, Buddhist, Jewish, and he also visited Poland 2 years ago. He visited Poland, he visited a Jewish museum in Warsaw, and he became interested in this subject, and he also supported us for different campaigns. So, and I would like to give the floor to Lablu to moderate the session and to introduce our speaker today. Thank you so much.
Venerable Lablu, please unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So good afternoons from Thailand and good mornings to the Western and Europe and also in USA or wherever. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evenings, whatever the time zones. And I am very privileged today to join in this conference. And I would like to thanks to the Natalia and Pankaj, Professor Raffles, to the organizings and to manage this kinds of wonderful and also meaningful and also the learnables, the project, which is very important, I think, at this now as a global crisis. We have many crises at this situations. So this is the most important to attend and arrange this conference and symposiums. So I am very honored to talk with the chief Rabbi of Poland. So I will be very honored to you and an honor to the whole Jewish community and all of the human beings to be for the peace, harmony, and also non-violence movements in the world and what is we need at this moment. So I would like to introduce our Chief Rabbi of Poland. Chief Rabbi of Poland, Rabbi Michael Schudrich is the Chief Rabbi of Poland, and he has a long and rich history of involvement in the Jewish communities of the both Eastern Europe and Asia. As a student in the 1970s, Schudrich began his travels to Western Europe by leading Jewish groups to those countries and meetings with the members of what remains of the Jewish communities there. After receiving rabbinic ordinations through the Warsaw University, Schudrich served as a rabbi of Japanese Jewish community from 1973 to 1989. From
1983 to 1989.
Yeah, and from 1992 to 1998, he resided in the Warsaw, Poland. And in June 2000, Rabbi Schudrich returns to Poland as the Rabbi of Warsaw and Lodz. And in December 2004, he was appointed to the position of the Chief Rabbi of Poland. And Rabbi Schudrich served on behalf of Poland Jewish community as the officials interlocutors with the both in Polish government and the Catholic Church. Rabbi Schudrich is especially proud of the times he has spent counseling Poles who have recently discovered their Jewish identity. And in his roles as a chief rabbi, Schudrich oversees 5 rabbis and numerous Jewish day schools and summer camps. In addition, he works to protect and preserve much grave sites, including more than 1,400 cemeteries and the 6 concentration camps in Poland from World War II. Rabbi Schudrich advised us the foundations for priorities for religious and communal lives in Poland. Rabbi Schudrich was born in New York City in 1955, educated in Jewish schools in the New York City area. He graduated from the State University of New York at Stony Brook in 1977, and with the religious studies major and received MA in history from the Columbia University in 1982. So this is our, we have very honored to meet with you and to introduce to the in here. And actually, I would like to ask some questions to know our knowledge and to share our knowledge with the global audience So this is, I think, most important to know the issue at this moment, because the genocide is denying in every country, and most of the government sector or local people, many of people's the denying and many way to deny. So as you have a lot of experience, as you are a faith leader, so please, I would like to ask some questions with our honors to be give you some questions. So the first question I would like to ask, have you personally witnessed cases of the Holocaust denial or genocide denial? Did it hurt you personally and your emotionally and your identity?
Okay. Well, first I'd like to start off by saying Sawadee Kap, Kapkun Kap. But that's all I can say, but it's not a bad start. If it was Japanese, I could do a little more. So thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Have I personally witnessed these cases of Holocaust denial? The first thing I want to say is that my role as a rabbi is not first and foremost about the Holocaust. My work is about teaching Judaism to Jews. So that's my focus. But of course, I live in Poland. The Holocaust, this is where most of the Jews were killed when the Germans occupied this country and created 6 factories of death. And so it's a very important topic. Have I personally witnessed Holocaust denial? Not so much in my presence, because I think what happens is that when I'm there, people won't say that to me because it's a little absurd. But I have heard, and here, especially in Poland, there is Holocaust denial, and then there's what I call Holocaust limitation. So let me explain. Holocaust denial means that 6 million Jews weren't killed. While you can hear that in Poland, it's very rare, partially because the Poles also suffered, non-Jewish Poles suffered terribly under the German occupation. Of the 6 million Jews killed, 3 million came from Poland. Half of the 6 million Jews came from Poland, but also almost 3 million non-Jewish Poles were also killed. So there's a sensitivity to the fact that the Germans committed horrible genocide in our country of Poland. But where Poland has a different kind of problem, that is, and which is very sensitive today, to what extent did Poles collaborate, participate with the German occupiers? And that's a much more difficult subject, because I can understand this. The Poles, some Poles are very open and they want to let's learn the truth. And like in any other country, there are also a whole group of Poles who say, well, we don't really want to talk about what we did wrong. Or we can talk about what the Germans did, so there's no Holocaust denial. But we don't want to talk that there were some Poles that collaborated. Now, what is just to clarify the historical record, it should be clear that when the Germans conquered Poland, they did not set up a puppet government. So unlike many other countries, Vichy, the south of France, and other countries where the Germans came in, they occupied, but there was still kind of a local administration. In many of the other countries, in Poland, not. Poland, they came in and they took over the country. So therefore, there was no Polish government in Poland from 1939 to 1944-45. There was a Polish government in exile that fled to London. And they were actually quite outspoken about the horrors happening to their Jewish citizens. So it should be clear that when we speak about Polish responsibility, we're not speaking of a government level, but there were individual Poles that collaborated with the Germans. How many? It's a very big discussion among historians. And my approach always is, let the historians work on it. I mean, I do have a master's in history, but I'm not functioning as a historian today. I'm a rabbi. Let the historians work on that question and let's see what they tell us, what they can teach us. But there are some people that just absolutely want to refuse that no Poles did anything wrong. And that's a distortion of the Holocaust. It's not a denial, it's a distortion of the Holocaust. And that's what you hear much more frequently in Poland. And I've heard that. And has it hurt me? Yes. But more than that, it's somewhere between hurt and I would use the word anger. But more importantly than anger, because that's the first reaction, and that is that this is a real problem for people who want to deny what their fellow countrymen did. It's their problem. I mean, they have a real moral challenge to be able to say, yes, there were some of us who did horrible things. And when they deny that, what they're doing is really hurtful to me, but very damaging to themselves. Because you cannot move beyond, you cannot heal if you deny there's no illness. So I can keep going on that question, but I think I said enough. I'm ready for the next question.
So very, very good. You have raised the very good answers. The hatred and also the denying how to the deed. Hatred always come to the hatred. So we be a non-hatredful behaviors to be make reconciliations with all of the human beings and make a peace. So next question I'd like to ask you about the, have you experienced in Europe and Asia, do you see a common challenges in Europe or Asia, hate speech and deny of common humanity?
Of course. I mean, all the whole world shares humanity. There's no question. I mean, Judaism speaks about, and not only Judaism, and many religions speak about, that we are all the children of God. Just on that, just one short lesson from the Talmud, from the famous rabbinic text that was written, it's written over a few hundred years, but it goes back almost 2,000 years, says, why did God create one Adam and one Eve? After all, if God was creating human beings, he could have created 10 couples. He could have created 100 couples right at the very beginning. What do we learn from the fact that God creates one man, one woman? And the answer the Talmud gives 2,000 years ago is that no nation can say, we came from the best Adam and Eve. Oh, that nation, they were from like the secondary Adam and Eve, not the good, which is very much what Nazi Germany was teaching, that they were the super race, and the Jews and the Slavs and Poles and others were the inferior race. That it was trying to make it scientific. And here it's fascinating to me, inspiring, that the Talmud already dealt with that problem 2,000 years before any Nazi had an idea to say that. So therefore, of course, we share a common humanity. And let me just read the question again.
The question is the hate speech and the common humanity, deny of the common humanity.
Right. So from my perspective, it's absolutely necessary that we have to recognize that we are all created equally, that we're all created in the image of God, and that God specifically creates one Adam, one Eve, so no one should think differently. Now, that doesn't mean that someone doesn't think differently. And the worst example, of course, were the German Nazis, who said that Jews and Slavs were inferior. And therefore, once you make a second category of human beings, once you deny or even just limit the humanity of another group, it then becomes much easier to persecute them and to kill them. And that still remains a tremendous challenge even today. There's right now in Poland a horrible humanitarian crisis at the border with Belarus. It's a crisis that was created by the dictator of Belarus, Lukashenko, who, as far as I see, he's a what do we say, a world-class criminal. He's not only a dictator, but he's a criminal for what he lured. He kind of fooled thousands of people to spend lots of money to try to escape from horrible situations. Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, parts of, I believe, Congo from Africa, to come there, and then you could get into the European Union. Well, you can't get into the European Union because you need a visa. But he fooled these people. But then the Polish government, for its own reasons, said, well, we're just closing the border completely. We're not even going to really permit people to seek asylum, which is international law and is moral law. And now it's gone down. But there, at one point, just last week, there were thousands of people stuck between the border of Poland and Belarus, freezing. Very little water, very little food, and like 13 people died from starvation and cold. And just because two governments are playing a game between each other. But what does that have to do with humanity? Well, it's clearly inhumane what's happening. But also here you hear voices saying, well, the people that are trying to come in, they're really not like us. I don't know if we could say they deny their humanity, but they're terrorists. They're a threat to us, and some really horrible things, trying to diminish the humanity of this group, which therefore seems to be okay now that we could not treat them as we would other human beings. So whenever you hear any place in the world, in any time period, attempting to say that group is really not human like us, that's immediately a huge red light. If we learn anything from the Holocaust, it's that when you can never deny the humanity of another group or another human being. And so what I've learned from my experience in Europe and Asia, and this is what I'm talking about more Europe now, but also in Asia, is that we must be very vigilant against any attempt to say, well, this group really isn't human like we are. Okay.
So
Next
thank you so much for your wonderful answer, and I think this will be helpful for our audience and who are watching our Facebook Live on Never Again Associations page, and also the website page in the Southeast Asia Holocaust page. They will be learning a lot of things from you. As a human being, we are thanks to the God. We are our own responsibility for our problems, and we must have to solve our problems for our side, from our mind and heart. So thank you so much, our Chief Rabbi. So third question I will ask, want to know that from you. Do you think faith and spirituality can be in expressions in confronting genocide, denial, and hate speech?
Okay. Now, I mean, you're asking a rabbi if faith and spirituality can inspires everything. So it's not just about genocide and hate speech. I mean, spirituality and faith inspires everything. So of course it also inspires that. But what it really does, it goes back to what I said before, that when a person is aware of the fact that the person I'm talking to is created by the same God I was created, has the same holiness Judaism speaks about the holy spark in every soul, that the challenge when I meet another human being is not to persuade them to believe like I believe, but my challenge is to be able to touch their holy spark, to learn from them, to be inspired by them. So what I really have learned from my spiritual journey is that when I meet another person, I want to learn from them. And so therefore, any kind of denial of genocide, hate speech is going to undermine the fundamental experience of engaging with another person. Hate speech is what can lead potentially to genocide, but certainly what hate speech does, is going to undermine the holiness of the other person. That person really doesn't deserve our respect. We don't recognize that they're created in the image of God. And so that really what my spirituality teaches me, that I always have to fight against hate speech because it's fundamentally undermining something so basic in faith and spirituality, and that is that we are all created equal by the same God with the same potential for holiness.
Thank you so much. And so I'd like to know that another questions, and do you think what should be the best symbolic reactions? It's not illegal because it is the happenings from the state or government and from the citizens to the burnings of the colleges estate during and the stream during the stream, because this question is come from someone streaming anti-Semitism's manifestations in Kazakhstan on 11 November. So what do you think?
Okay, so thank you.
Come from the question from the one of the participant.
Okay,
The third board.
and I see the question in the chat, so it's very clear. Thank you. So first, let me 30 seconds. What happened? November 11th is an Independence Day of Poland, and so what's in the last few years, the far right, basically neo-Nazis, have started to make. They're now making a march in Poland. Basically, the big one was always in Warsaw, and which they said racist, xenophobic, anti-Semitic, anti-gay banners and statements. This year in Warsaw was the calmest of all, but then there was a small one in a city called Kalisz in central western Poland, where it was exceeding the worst anti-Semitic rhetoric probably that we've heard. Raphael could concur with that. And they also burnt a book, which was called the Statute of Kalisz, which was from the 13th century, where the King of Poland gave the rights for Jews to live and to do business and to make their homes in Poland. And that's really the first official document where Jews are officially welcomed, legally welcomed by the king into Poland, which is always for us this wonderful, in 13th century is a long time ago, that at the same time other European countries were expelling Jews, and here Poland was accepting. So it was really such a wonderful document. And what this group did is they burnt it, which kind of symbolically is burning the rights of Jews to be in Poland. So it was horrible. It was clearly meant to be provocative. I've always believed when it comes to acts of anti-Semitism, one is very important to monitor what is happening, but along with that is to see what is the reaction of society. And here, really, for the first time, there was a very strong criticism from the president of Poland, President Duda, from others in the government, a very strong statement by the Catholic Church, which is the major church here. And so it there was a very strong reaction. What should our reaction be to it? Absolutely, it's just standard things should be done. One is everybody should write to their members of parliament to say this is outrageous, we cannot permit it. To sign open letters. There was a march the next day. There was a march in Kalish against what happened. And even just talking to your friends, even if everybody keeps talking to friends, talk to 10 people that you know and say, I cannot be quiet when this thing happens. Everybody knows it's horrible, but I'm going to talk to my friends about it. And some of them will talk to their friends. Very soon we could have thousands of people talking about how it's wrong. And yes, we have to work from on top, but we also have to work from the bottom up. And that is, if everybody who feels this outrage, then let them talk to their friends. And hopefully their friends will talk to their friends. Okay, back to you.
So thank you so much. And so the next questions, from your experience, do you know good examples of interfaith cooperations and the actions of faith leaders against genocide denial and hate speech?
Okay, well, because right now this is a major topic in Poland about the treatment of refugees at the border. We just released a few days ago a letter from 7 or 8 different key clergy in Warsaw, together with the mayor of Warsaw, saying that we need to collect different items to help the refugees, what's happening at the border. We cannot remain indifferent. We need to try to do something. We as clergy are not going to touch the political side, but we're going to very much to intervene, to do what we can on the humanitarian side. In addition, there was a letter organized, signed by the 4 top clergy of the country that went to the president and the prime minister asking for a meeting, and we're still waiting for a response on that. So this is, I think, very much concrete, real examples that have happened in the last 7-8 days.
So the next question.
And I'm sorry, let me just add, I think that it's also in many countries, when the clergy speak in one voice, when they speak together, like, what? That's weird. I mean, the rabbi, the priest, and the imam are all saying the same thing. Whoa! Like it's unusual. So people then pay attention. What's going on? Okay, back to you.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Actually, I think that's as we are the faith leaders, and we have a very good roles to play, good roles, because most of the peoples, all of the religious faith leaders, they are followers. They follow them, what their morality and their personality, everything's followed by their followers. So we should be a good leader, and we should be the work for humanity for everyone. So thank you so much for your answer. So my next questions to you, dear Rabbi, what else can be done on the level of faith leaders against genocide denials and hatred speech? Some things you would like to be see, but it is not achieved yet.
Yeah, I would say that we've done a lot of important things. We just need to do more of the same. One of the challenges is on the Holocaust denial, or even before, along with Holocaust denial, is Holocaust education, and that is really working in the Arab world, where unfortunately, because of political reasons, the whole topic of the Holocaust is not really taught yet. Now that's starting to change. In the United Arab Emirates, I think also Bahrain, they're beginning to say, yes, we need to talk about it. And some very important events about 3 years ago, the Imam al-Isa, who's the head of one of the largest Muslim organizations in the world, was visited here in Auschwitz and came to our synagogue here in Warsaw, where I'm talking to you right now. And this was a very important symbol. So it's doing more things together and enabling our people to know that when it comes to fundamental issues as hate speech or genocide, we do not permit politics to get involved. As much as we can, we don't want politics. We want to face the truth, and we want to face how can we make this world a better place.
So thank you so much for your wonderful answers, and very, very privileged and very honors to you are with us, and for your valuable time with us, all the Asians and Europe and wherever the people watching our in Facebook Live. I think they will learn a lot of things from you. So at the end, I would like to some questions from the audience. If audience any have a questions, please you can ask to our honorable Chief Rabbi, or you can write in the chat box, or you can raise your hand in here. So we'll be follow your question to our Chief Rabbi.
Venerable, there is a question from Visal Sorn in the chat box.
So he can ask directly also these questions, because in my in here I cannot see in here.
Okay, I see it. I can read. I'll read it out loud. From Visal Sorn. How can the religious leader bring peace and social justice for the community, especially to the community country that committed crimes against humanity, such as genocide, for their own country and other countries? In which way? Okay. For me, living in Europe, let me take the example of Germany. Germany, immediately after the war, had a leadership under Konrad Adenauer and others that said, we need to face the fact that we committed the worst genocide ever. And they did. Amazing. The same country that produced mass murderers also produced people who stood up and said, we did it, we're responsible, and we have to do something to fix the world. And really, Germany, since the end of the war, has been at the forefront of trying to find a more moral way. I mean, really, today, Germany has become the moral voice in some ways of Europe. And so while we will never forget what the German Nazis did, we could also never forget what the post-Nazi Germans are doing, and that is confronting their own genocide that they committed, and to look forward. So it is possible. Now, if a religious leader participated in a genocide and wants to deny their responsibility, then I don't know how we're going to be able to work with that person really in bringing peace and social justice. But if a person did something horrible and then says, listen, I did something very wrong, I want to try to fix as much as I can the damage that I've created, then that is something that is very possible and very important.
So thank you so much. And if anyone have any questions, please, you can raise your hand and you can ask. I have a more for 3 to 4 minutes. So, sorry. So if you have any questions now?
Well, I could ask a question if there is a possibility.
Okay.
Rabbi, I want to ask a question about a specific case, which again may or may not be known to everybody in the room, but since we are talking about interfaith dialogue and the role of leaders in combating lies and especially anti-Semitic lies. The case of Father Wierzbicki currently is probably known to you. And the Never Again Association publicly expressed its solidarity and support to Father Wierzbicki, but I would say it is shocking that a case like that could be underway from a major religious institution, the Catholic University of Lublin. I'm sorry, I'm not explaining the case. You might like to do it, but I'm sure you know what I refer to. Thank you.
Okay. Father Wierzbicki has been very outspoken on topics that a lot of people in the church are not comfortable talking about the position of gays, anti-Semitism, and many other things. And he is having he's now being accused by his university on 6 different counts that he should be disciplined. Let's say, so not to be repeated, but I was in Lublin yesterday and I met with someone, not the rector of the university, but someone else very high up, and said that this cannot be. I mean, this is a great man, and said, well, the accusations aren't going to hold. They're not going to really do anything against him. They can't. What we're seeing here really is an internal struggle within the church, how to deal with honest, moral Catholic clergy who may not be saying what many others in the church want to hear. And in addition, a very unhealthy situation where the government is trying to be so close to the Catholic Church that it also is attempting to influence the church. And that's it's a very unhealthy relationship. And I prefer not to go into more detail. I've already said too much. But absolutely, I have not in the last few weeks, but I've been in contact with Father Wierzbicki and many others have, and we are really just simply outraged at the way he's being treated. You're on mute. You have to unmute.
Thank you so much. And today we are very, very honored for you you are with us. And now, actually today we are very unhappy for one of the things. As you know that one of the very close friend, Jeremy Jones, and he will be with us today, but unfortunately have some problem with the health problem and health reasons. He cannot join with us, and we pray for on behalf of all of the Buddhist community, Jewish community, and all of the human being. We are praying for to his recovery soon. And he just last week he sent to me SMS that he will be not unable to join to the meetings because of his health condition, and he is in hospital. So we pray for his recovery as soon. And so we are very remembers to his contribution, because we have a last time, as you know, that we have an interfaith dialogue. That time he joined with us in the one session, and he gave the very good introductions, and also the history of the Jews and how the migrants, many things he explaining. This is my personally, I learned a lot of things. Even today, I have a very privilege and honor that I learned a lot of things, because this is the first time, second time to close connect with you as a chief rabbi. You are from the Poland, and in my personal life, this is the first I meet with the Jewish rabbi in my life. So very honored to be meet with you.
The honor is mine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I need to excuse myself now because I have to go. I'm late for my next Zoom. It's terrible. The life of the pandemic. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Anyway,
I'll be finished within 1 minute. I'll be finished within 1 or 2 minutes. Just 1 or 2 minutes.
1 minute.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So we can make summarize that we need to all of the faith, whatever Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, what their faith, but we must have to be the core value and core belief that we are human being. We have to work for justice. We have to work for human dignity, and we have to work for peace, harmony in this world. So thank you so much to be you are with us, and it is our privilege, honor, and also thanks all of the participants and attendants who joining with us and who are watching in our online. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will be close.
ขอบคุณครับ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
Namaste สวัสดีครับ
Namaste.
Amazing.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you.
Dhanyawad.
Thank you very much. And